Video and photo backlogs can leave you overwhelmed, exhausted, and burnt out. We've been there, and our fears of outsourcing stopped us in the past. Can you find an editor as invested in your brand as you are? Will other photographers and filmmakers we network with look down on us for not editing everything on our own? That fear of outsourcing can be detrimental to your career. That's why we love our partnership with Weditor. Their attention to details with not only our work, but also their care for their clients through all steps of the outsourcing process lets us fully step back from editing and focus on what we love, knowing our work is receiving the attention it needs. More than just editing, Weditor is passionate about demystifying the outsourcing market. Follow Weditor on Instagram at we_r_Weditor for free educational tips, tools, and resources to guide you through the insanity of today's editing market. For an even deeper dive, follow Weditor's blog at weditor.com/outsourcing.
Welcome to the We Got You podcast, a network curated for wedding photographers and filmmakers that dives deep into the strategies and tactics to transitioning a side hustle in the wedding industry into a full-time, thriving career. We're your hosts, luxury wedding filmmaker Emma K. Films and luxury destination wedding photographer Hannah Brook Photography. It wasn't too long ago that we picked up our cameras for the first time, having absolutely no idea where it would lead us. Years later, we're traveling the globe for beautiful destination weddings, built our dream lifestyles, and run multi-six-figure careers. It didn't happen overnight and it wasn't easy, but it is attainable and so worth it. And we're ready to teach you our strategies. Covering a variety of topics from both our firsthand experiences and reputable guest speakers' insights crucial for business growth, we're exploring the art of marketing within your niche, discussing effective ways to attract and retain clients, leverage social media, and build a strong online presence, and so much more. We're not shying away from talking through the challenges of the wedding industry and offering realistic solutions to navigate them successfully. We emphasize the importance of networking, establishing meaningful relationships with clients, and continuously honing one's craft to stand out in a competitive market. This is the We Got You podcast.
Hello. Welcome to another episode on the We Got You podcast. We're so excited this week that you guys are tuning in. Hope you're having an amazing Monday and start of the week. This week, we're just seriously so excited to welcome Mike and Haley, an incredible couple that has been modeling in the wedding industry, onto the podcast today to talk with us about the ins and outs of a styled shoot content day from a model's perspective. So Mike and Haley, how are you guys today?
We're good.
Doing great.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us on. This is like such a fun topic, so we're excited to chat about it.
Yeah, when we were thinking about it would be so cool. We know we have so many people listening who are interested in either hosting or, attending styled shoots, content days. We thought what better way to really kind of get those ins and outs than hearing from a model who really sees it all. You guys work with those vendors, you work with the photographers, work with the videographers, where you guys have, I feel almost the best insight to what, hosting or running a content day kind of looks like. So we are seriously so excited and so thankful that you guys were able to jump on to today's episode. And, before we get started, we'd really love for you guys to introduce yourselves. For anyone who's listening who might not know more about you guys, share your Instagram handle, where you're based, and, just kind of your journey modeling in the wedding industry and what you guys have been up to the last year.
Yeah, totally. So Haley here. I am kind of specializing in social media marketing, and I just kind of do that for anyone who wants to hire me. I'm pretty much just a freelancer, so I'm kind of in the social media world, marketing world, and my Instagram is just Haley Mercado Smith. But I just do fun home and fashion stuff, and bridal modeling has just been kind of a fun little side gig that, I get to do with my husband, and we get to kind of clash jobs and work together every once in a while. So that's been really fun. But it's all just, it's just really fun because we get to dress up and hang out together. And so bridal modeling has just been a really good highlight this past year. And we definitely have a lot of stories to share. So that'll be fun to get into that. But, you want to share yours?
Yeah, a lot of great stories. Mike, I am a residential real estate agent. So if you need to buy or sell a home, Portland area, be happy to help you. We've been enjoying bridal modeling for the last year, really picked up this last year. And just to meet new people and, get married multiple times, as well as different venue locations as well. We can give a lot of tips to people who, friends who are getting engaged, who are having their wedding coming up. Also great connections, great photographers and videographers and florists and everyone. So it's exciting, and we're just glad to be here with you guys.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on. And I think you bring up such a good point too. I mean, even as models in the bridal industry, you're able to give advice to your friends and your family and like help them with wedding venues. But it also like sparks that point where I think coming from the photo video perspective from a styled shoot, sometimes you don't think about models as being a person that can network for you. But doing a styled shoot from a photo video perspective, when you're shooting the models and you're giving them the photos and the videos later, like you have no idea, like those models could then like recommend you to their family and friends. And so I think it's kind of crazy because sometimes we just think like, oh, it's just, they're just our models, and they're we forget how important the networking side from models can be, because you have friends getting married and you have families getting married. So I think that's really cool. I would love to know, just like, Hannah and I obviously have been able to work with you both before, and it's been so incredible to just like see your modeling journey take off and be able to work with so many different photographers and videographers and wedding planners for other shoots. What would you say has been the easiest and the hardest part about having a business, growing a business as models?
Yeah.
I'm going to go first and I can chime in.
So the easiest, I think, for me personally, is like doing it with Mike, just because like him and I are just like truly best friends. So anything we do together, we're going to make it fun. And so like being able to hang out together and just like model together, it's obviously we're comfortable with each other. So, photographers are like, do this pose, do that pose. And we're like, okay, like it doesn't matter because we're married, right? So it's just like we're comfortable. And so that's what makes it really fun and easy, I would say. Hard, I think. I would say like sometimes there's a lack of communication with photographers, like when they ask, us to be at a shoot and then we show up and maybe it's a little bit different than what we thought, or we're doing things that we didn't think we would be doing. And so we're like, oh, what did we sign up for? Or we didn't expect this for our day. And so we've gotten into some of those situations where it's like, this is a lot harder of a shoot than we thought, or, stuff like that. So maybe the like lack of communication side with shoots can get like quite hard.
Yeah. It's, especially like if we don't know if we're going up on an hour-long hike, and where are we going to change? And then I think for us too, I mean, on our part too, like asking more questions. Hey, should we be prepared for a hike, or how long will we be out there? Should we bring, our Stanley cups or some snacks? So I think it's a bit of both too. And just knowing upfront, hey, what to expect is probably, and having that good communication can help, I'd say.
Growing the business hasn't been really hard. I feel like it's just been like, we just are referred, like a photographer sees we did a shoot with someone else and they're like, hey, we want you for this shoot. So like the business part has actually been quite easy. We've gotten reached out to by a lot of people, more than we expected. I think because it's like kind of a smaller niche in like the Portland, Oregon area. So that's been actually quite easy.
Yeah.
And I feel like too, it's so evident when you see models that really connect with each other. Like you guys are married, like you said, it's like you get to get married all over again, and like you guys are so comfortable together. I feel like I've been at a couple styled shoots or content days where the models are actually like from a modeling agency and they might have never met each other before, and it's such a different vibe, not only just like the shooting and the experience shooting with them, but then also just like you can almost tell through the photos that there just isn't that connection or that, that instant spark or anything. And so it's crazy because I'm like, no surprise you guys have been reached out like so many times, because you can just tell in all of your photos, like you guys are, obsessed with each other and incredibly gorgeous. So that makes it very easy. But at the same time, like you guys really, take on what that content day looks like and are like ready to go and willing to do anything. And so I just think that's so fun and so incredible to see your business completely grow and everything. And even just you guys posting about being fully booked for, certain months and everything has been amazing to see that flourish.
Yeah, I know. It's been really fun. And I'm like, we have to give the credit to you because you guys were the first ones to reach out to us. So.
Yeah, you guys are the first photo shoot, I think, that we've ever done together.
Yeah.
Wedding photo shoot that we've done together.
It was
So
our first shoot with you guys.
yeah. So you guys
Oh my
inspired us.
gosh.
You're like, I don't remember if you guys said, "Oh, you should start doing this more" or something like that. I don't know.
something.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember too. That was like, what was that? 2020, 2021? That was like in one of my first years, like our first years of like photo and filmmaking too, which is like
Mhm.
crazy to look back
Yeah.
and think, look at how far we've come.
I know. Look at us now. You know.
I love it. I'm curious to know, especially when it comes to like, styled shoots, workshops, content days, what does like a typical day in the life look like for you guys? Is it more like working one-on-one with, a creative, or is it more like a full-on workshop, or like what do you guys typically book or going and modeling for?
I think probably 9 times out of 10, it's a content like styled day, like shoot with multiple photographers. And I'm talking like 15, 20 photographers that have flown to Oregon or something, and they're all like wanting to shoot multiple different looks with multiple different couples. And so yeah, and for those days, it's pretty like scheduled. Like we'll have makeup and hair, and then head to a meeting point, and then most of the time we have like multiple different spots, especially if it's like at the coast. Since they have flown to Oregon, they want to hit different like locations. So we've had to like travel to different spots for one content day. And that's all fine. It's definitely a lot. I think the photographers are prepared for it to be a lot for them, and not forget, but I think it's like it's a lot for the models too. There's been a point where I've almost like passed out during a shoot because I've stood for so long in one spot, hot outside, a heavy dress on me, and we're just like, 15 to 20 people like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I'm just like out of breath. Like it can be a lot. I know it doesn't sound like a lot to be a model, but it can be.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like too, it's like, we don't want to let the photographers down because, they're paying us, we got to be on point. All these people have flown here. So it's like, we don't want to say, and maybe we need to speak up more too, but we don't want to say, oh, we need a break because we kind of feel bad too. But also I think, just communicating and just knowing up front, like we mentioned at the beginning, hey, you're going to be at God's thumb and, near the cliff and, be prepared for it. And this, that, and the other. But yeah.
Just like that mental preparation. Okay, I would love to know when you're at a styled shoot, and let's just say you have 15 photographers on you. What have you seen necessarily like work in terms of, because I know for style shoots that I've gone to, you've got photographers that are, or videographers, like we're going to use it interchangeably here, but like you've got them just kind of like yelling in your ear. Someone's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Has there been any way that you have seen, or any style shoot specifically that you've seen with big groups on you, like that they do that really works in terms of just like how they're posing you? Or is it really just like, am I phrasing that right? Does that make sense?
Like a free for all?
Yeah, because I guess it's like, I know a lot of styled shoots, they have different ways they set up their groups, right? They'll like split them up into smaller groups, or they'll just say all 15 have at it. Is there anything that you guys have noticed that's been way easier for the two of you to pose than per se having 15 photographers just yell in your ear every 5 seconds?
I mean, the shoot that we did with Hannah, I think that was a content day at that place in Oregon City.
What was it called? Yeah, ArcLight.
Yeah, even the one at our place too, where it was just, I think 3 or 4 photographers per group. It was more mellow. We're more laid back, I guess, as opposed to 15 people, because what we've seen is once it's like 15 people per group, it's like you said, Emma, like, hey, look at me here, look at me here.
Sometimes photographers get a little like tiffy with each other, like, hey, I wasn't done. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
No.
But we do prefer the smaller groups for sure, because we can take our time. We feel like, we can listen better as well, and it's just a better overall quality of shoot, I think.
I feel like that genuinely does make the biggest difference, having a smaller group on you, because even like in my experience in hosting workshops and whatnot, like when you just have a big group on models, there's just there really is no way to kind of like streamline how you're going to pose. But if you can break it up into smaller groups, it genuinely makes all the difference when you have like 5 photographers with you as opposed to like 15, you know?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm curious as, in terms of like payment for style shoots, as models, and I know obviously this is personal preference, but do you guys have like set rates, or does it truly depend on the project? And then maybe even talk a little bit about travel. Like, should hosts like cover your travel, or is that something that you guys include in your rate? Yeah, I just kind of would love to talk about like as models, like how you guys kind of do your pricing.
Yeah, in the beginning it was a little harder just because we just weren't sure what we should charge, and we didn't have a lot of like couple models to go to with like what they charge, so we just kind of had to figure it out with what felt best for us. I think what we came down to was, yes, we do have a set rate, but the asking questions part is a huge key, because it's like, okay, yes, we have the set rate, but are we like doing an hour hike, like, or are we going to be standing near a cliff, or like, those kind of things? And that's going to maybe make the rate look a little bit different. And so I think from like a photographer's perspective, just like knowing what you're expecting of the model, what you're having them do, like we've had to climb hikes and sand dunes in like a full wedding dress with my hair and makeup done,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
And
You're going to get charged more for that.
so I'm going to charge you a little bit more for that.
If it's in Oregon City, ArcLight, it's going to be less for sure.
Right. If it's just like a studio and it's mellow, yeah, those things are different. But so yeah, rates can change for sure depending on what the photographers want. But for travel, we did have a traveling shoot, and when we kind of worked out the numbers, we just kind of made our rate a little bit higher, so we could cover the cost of our hotel and stuff like that. And so we didn't expect them to pay it for us. It was just our rate went up a little bit, but that was just kind of personal preference for us.
That's
Perfect.
amazing. And it's honestly really good to hear too, because I feel like so many people who are listening in are, like we said, interested in hosting or, going to content shoots and everything. And there's so much that goes into hosting a workshop, styled shoot, content day, even if it's one shoot. Like there's a lot of details that go into it. And, when you're thinking about vendors and, paying the florist for the flowers and, I know a lot of people try to collab as much as they can and kind of try to trade services, but I feel like one of those pieces that people often, don't really think about is models, because you're paying for their time, their energy, like you said, it's not always an easy job. It's low-key, I joke, a workout modeling for a shoot, even getting your photos taken. Like even if you're paying to have them taken, like it is a workout. So, thinking about like, what does that cost look like for models? What does that travel entail? Like, what are you asking of them? And so, if you're interested in hosting, like those are questions you need to be asking and details you kind of need to know, because this isn't like you guys have gotten married probably a dozen times now, but it's not like you guys are needing these photos for something. It's not like necessarily collab where it's like, we need these photos and we'll trade you for our time, like those are details you have to think about.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll break down, like, let's say as an example, like let's say we do a shoot, because we do a lot of shoots at Pacific City, and we live in Newburgh. So that's like a hour and a half drive. So let's say the shoot's at 2:00. We leave the house, 12:30, get there at 2, the shoot's probably 2 hours, 2 to 4. And then, from 4 to 7 is driving back. Or if it's a sunset shoot and it's in the summer, then we're, photo shoot ends at 8 or 9, then we're getting back at 11. But it does
takes a full day.
It does take some time, because it's not, it's more of like something we do on the side. Like, Haley has to take time off of work. I have to take time off of work as well. So it is an opportunity cost, but we enjoy it for sure. But it's just like, okay, location wise, how long the shoot is, that's some things we think about too. So that affects things.
Well, and I feel like too, it really is one of those situations where you're paying for experience. Like I know of a lot. I even remember when I first got started in the video, it was like, I would just have my friends model for me. Right. And they would come and they're like, oh yeah, I would love a video. And I'm sure Hannah's been in that situation too, where it's like, oh, just have friends model. Like they would love the photos, but you don't get the experience of having actual models. And especially for any photographers and videographers who are out there listening, when you're hosting a content day, when you're hosting a workshop, and you have attendees who are paying for tickets, they're paying for that experience, and they should be paying for experienced models. You want models to come in who are comfortable with each other, who have had some experience, because the last thing that you want is models who could feel really awkward with each other or are not sure what to do. And that does take a toll on the experience you give your attendees. And so I think that even justifies that price point even more for your models, because you really are paying for that experience. So I love hearing like from your perspective, like it doesn't come from a place of like, oh, you just like, you have to take time off work. You have experience. You don't need the photos. You're doing it because you enjoy it, but you're also taking essentially an entire day to model and to donate, like to give your time.
Does your current client delivery system feel unexciting, limiting, and boring? Maybe you're still using good old Google Drive or Dropbox to deliver your clients' wedding films. If the answer to these is yes, it's time to level up your video delivery experience with VidFlow. VidFlow is a pay-per-use online platform that allows you to deliver fully branded websites for each of your clients. While being incredibly affordable, VidFlow is accessible on mobile, desktop, and smart TVs with included long-term hosting so that your clients can truly enjoy the entire experience when receiving their wedding films. When I first found VidFlow, it was such an easy switch that truly benefited my business substantially. With so many incredible features and options for customization and personalization, VidFlow continues to wow my clients time and time again. You can find VidFlow on Instagram or visit their website at vidflow.co. Use our code WGY20 for 20% off a yearly premium membership and level up your client experience today with VidFlow.
When it comes to modeling for styled shoots, we'd love to kind of dive into things that you guys see that you've loved or maybe haven't loved as much, but kind of starting it off, what do you guys feel like a couple things that you've seen just like in the past year or so modeling that you absolutely love when it comes to somebody who's hosting, or maybe it's photographers shooting with you guys or videographers working with you? Like, what are a few things that you absolutely love so that people listening who are looking to, kind of get started in that field can really make sure they put that on their list of something, okay, good to know, like something to do or whatnot?
I love a confident and prepared host, like someone who like has everything written down, knows exactly what like the next 5 minutes look like, and has their photographers like not under control, but like, you know what I mean? Like has them sectioned off exactly where they're supposed to be, and like, and just has the day planned out perfectly. And that's probably just because I am like a planner in general, so I love to see when other people do that too. But it does help because it's like it makes the day go so smooth. You know that everything's like going exactly how it's supposed to, especially if it's like, hey, we're going to need you for 2 hours on the dot, and then they need us for 2 hours on the dot, rather than like, oh, we're running a little bit late, and things happen. We're not like, no one has to be perfect ever, but it just is nice when you can tell the host has really, really prepped for this, just because we've seen both sides of it and how content days can go, especially when there is a large group of people. And then I also really love when the host is really like, just acts like a really good host. Like, hey, do you guys need a break? Like, let us know when we can like stop, like go do a 5-10 minute break. Like that has been so great for us, because then we can go grab some water or grab a little snack, especially if it's a longer shoot. So, because I know hosts, they need to take care of their photographers, of course, but being able to like be there for the models as well, is so awesome. And I've always loved that. So preparation is just key. Preparation is
Yeah.
key.
So I'd love to know on the flip side, what have you seen necessarily, or like maybe a few mistakes that hosts make during style shoots that you as models have found not enjoyable?
So a lot of times photographers are flying to Oregon, and I think a lot of them that we have done, they haven't been to Oregon before, or they're at least not really familiar with the area. So I have seen the photographer, we go to a specific location, or, I don't know, the content days at a specific spot, and they weren't expecting like the hike, right? They were like, oh, we didn't know that there was a hike, or we didn't know this hike was this long, or we didn't know that this area was sectioned off. So things get a little bit maybe thrown off because they didn't know what to expect of the area. And so I think my advice would just be, if you are traveling for a content day, just to really ask photographers in the area, like, what does this hike look like? What does this cliff look like? So that way you're prepared for all your photographers and for your models.
Yeah, and even if they're here for a couple of days, like take a day to maybe even scout out the area, because that would help too. Because when they scout out the area and then the shoot goes smoother, like what you guys were mentioning at the beginning with networking. Then when people ask, oh, we're in Utah, we need a photographer. Oh yeah, we shot with that photographer from Utah. Everything was smooth. You should definitely reach out to them, because it's, even though it's taking a step back and moving a bit slower, the quality will be there. I feel like if you're flying in, take some time to scout out those places so the shoot can go smooth for the models and for the other people flying in for the content day.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it just like echoes why it's so important to really, truly like dive into what all it takes to host something like this. Like, I feel like so many people think, oh, it's super easy. I'll just like have some people come model, connect with some vendors, like have people do it, kind of like almost like I hate to say it, but almost like a more thrown together, and it is evident when it comes to even just the shooting process and, what that ends up looking like. You have to plan a lot. It's a lot more details than people think, which is why we always recommend, start with doing a styled shoot that's like a one styled shoot, then start with a content day, then move on to a workshop, like start small, because there's so many different pieces that you actually have to think about and really work with. And I know you guys said earlier about like sometimes photographers will get in tiffs or something and you're like, oh, what do I do? Which I think is hilarious, because I've seen that before so many times at shoots where people are like, no, I needed this shot. And they're like, back up. And I'm like, oh boy, that's got to be awkward. Have you guys ever felt like you've been like uncomfortable in a shoot when it comes to like either, working with creatives or even just like what you were wearing or, where you were? Like obviously the cliff and everything, that's a little different. But did you guys ever feel like you were uncomfortable in other shoots and stuff?
We have felt uncomfortable, yes.
I feel like we did a couple of sunrise shoots, right?
Yeah.
Sunrise shoots, and then, on the coast, it's pretty cold. And then I have like a jacket on and button up, but then Haley has like a sleeveless, dress on, and she's shivering. So that's kind of tough. I don't know if there's a workaround though. You can't really wear a jacket.
Well, I just think maybe if you are having a content day at the Oregon coast at 4:30 in the morning, maybe have like a long sleeve dress for the model.
Yeah.
Or, and I get like
Shocker.
You want a certain look, but at least like during breaks, like I can like put a coat on. Cause like I have literally shivered. I've been freezing because of what I'm wearing, or like we've had to hike up the dune at Pacific City and I was in like a sleeveless wedding dress and it was like pouring down rain. And so, but it's all fun and games. It's just like, yes, there's things that we've had to wear or places that we've been, or I do not like heights, but we had to like be like 2 inches away from a drop off cliff and
close your eyes and put your arms out and the wind's blowing on my back. I'm like, all right, this is it.
I'm like, what are we doing here? But that's also on us.
Yeah.
We need to ask questions.
Yeah.
Like I've learned, what does the dress look like? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's insane. But also like you guys are people too. Models aren't just like, oh, we do this 24/7. This is our full-time job. We're down for anything, like you guys are people too. You need breaks. Like I remember I was at a shoot hosted by somebody else and one of the models was like, I really need to eat something, like I'm going to pass out. And I like ran and got her a smoothie I was drinking. She's like, thanks so much. But it's just like people just sometimes don't really think about that. Like if you guys are going to be there for a full day, you need to bring food and water for your models. Like they need to be included in whatever those meal plans are. When you think about like hosting a workshop or a content day or something, like your models are also people who, while they aren't like attending, they're at this whole event all day or whatnot. So it's crazy. I don't know how much people almost have like a disconnect of like attendees and then like vendors. Vendors are, even the florist is probably there all day too. Like people need to be taken care of. You know, when it comes to, you know, people who are hosting events or being at events or whatnot, or looking to have, you know, couples modeling for them, what are a couple pieces of advice that you guys would give, you know, photographers or videographers looking to work with couple models?
I say from scheduling, and they do a pretty good job. Just reach out like a couple months in advance, depending on the model, or even like a month in advance. We had a couple where it was last minute shoots, and those are tougher to schedule out.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, a couple months in advance would be ideal to schedule out, or a month in advance.
Yeah, as early as possible, I think, to reach out and get them on the books for sure. Especially if there's someone who does this, you know, kind of as a side thing. Their schedule probably isn't as flexible. So reaching out in advance is great. And then also just like kind of what we mentioned before, but maybe putting yourself in that model's shoes and think about, okay, so they're going to be wearing this. This is what the weather's going to be like. This is our hike, or this is like, you know, how long they have to drive. And so just like trying to know like, okay, what am I asking of them? And then when they come at you with a price or something, just seeing if it is like reasonable. And so, yeah, I think the preparation part is huge.
Communication's huge too.
Communication's huge. I've always loved when I've gotten like a long text from a host being like, this is exactly what our day is going to look like. This is what we need of you. That is just the key to my heart. So I love that.
That's amazing to hear and know too. And like, seriously, having you guys on here has been so beneficial, especially for everyone listening, but even just like Em and I getting to hear from your guys' perspective too, like really kind of what that looks like and what works, what doesn't work and everything. But before we close the episode, we would love again to get your guys' modeling Instagram handle and contact for our audience, you know, to follow along with you guys or maybe even work with you guys in the future.
Yeah, that'd be so great. So our modeling Instagram page is just Mike and Haley with 2 underscores. We post pretty much every shoot that we do on there. And so not only is it good for like photographers to have inspo, but even like models to have inspo, or just people in general who are getting married to have inspo. We just like to post it just so people can have bridal inspo. So yeah, you can follow us on there. And if you do want to work with us, you can just DM us and check our schedules. But yeah, no, this has been so great. I've loved chatting with you guys about this.
Thank you again so much for coming on. Like, you guys are, like we said earlier, there was no one better that we could think of for this episode than to have you guys on here. And you guys are just so amazing, so sweet. We've loved seeing you guys' like business grow and flourish and everything. But thank you so much for sharing just like all the almost like behind the scenes ins and outs of content days and everything with our audience. So thankful to have you guys on here, and hope that everyone listening got to learn a couple things and is more ready for hosting in the future. But thank you again, and we will see you guys next week on the We Got You podcast.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the We Got You podcast. We would absolutely love it if you could take an extra minute to leave us a review and let us know what you think. DM us a screenshot of it and we'll send you a coffee on us. If you want access to an exclusive community, rad freebies, giveaways, and wedding referrals, then join our Facebook group today. Also, if you aren't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you're following along on Instagram at WeGotYou_podcast to stay up to date. We'll see you next week on the We Got You podcast.